Good evening, my name is Takeva Clay. I'm currently a student at MUW in the Advanced Placement Program, obtaining my BSN. Today I will talk to you guys about the opioid crisis. So let's begin. By the end of this presentation, all of the audience members, the learner will be able to verbalize the definition of an opioid. The learner will also be able to identify at least one sign and symptom of being an opioid addict. And also the learner will be able to identify 3 examples of an opioid. First, we will begin by explaining what an opioid is. An opioid is a medication that acts directly on the nervous system, and the nervous system consists of your brain and your spinal cord. Examples of an opioid could be morphine, oxycodone, codeine, fentanyl, and hydrocodone. An opioid crisis. It is the rapid increase in the use of prescription or non-prescription opioid drugs. A prescription opioid drugs is what is prescribed by a doctor. And that could be morphine, codeine, or the fentanyl. Non-prescription opioids, examples of that would be cocaine and heroin, and those are the street drugs that people use, and those also act directly on the central nervous system. Yeah. Here we just have some statistics, and basically this is kind of just giving you an overview of the amount of people that were killed from some form of opioid overdose or things of that sort. In 2015, an opioid overdose, the deaths from that, which was prescription as well as non-prescription, reached epidemic levels, which were pretty high. More than 50,000 deaths occurred that year due to prescription with a combination of non-prescription opioid drugs. So that could have been the fentanyl, the codeine, the heroin, all of the street drugs, and that can include methamphetamine and all that as well, because those drugs actually do act directly on the central nervous system as well. In 2016, about half of those deaths were caused from overdoses of a prescription opioid, and that's what the doctor prescribed. So we do have people that tend to kind of hoard their medication. They don't take it the way the doctor prescribes it, and they let it build up, so when they're actually ready to overdose or kill themselves, they take so many of them. And during those years, the opioid epidemic cost the U.S. an estimated $504 billion in 2015. Here we have further statistics. We went back as far as 1999 with these. These are deaths with opioids that occurred over the past 20 years. Of course, we can see how the numbers have increased. They tripled, actually, and quadrupled. In 1999, we started with 4,000 deaths. 2010, 16,000 deaths. 2015, 53,000. And by 2016, 64,000. So we're seeing a constant pattern of the number of overdoses is actually increasing. And before long, this number probably would double itself. Okay, now we're going to talk about opioid dependency. That's when your body becomes dependent on the drug and you're not able to function properly without having the drug in your system. It's usually self-diagnosed, because once you see that you're becoming withdrawn from something, you can kind of start shaking and things of that nature. So your body will begin to crave the drug, and again, you can't actually function without the drug. That'll put you in the mind of alcoholism or being dependent of alcohol. The inability to function in daily life without the drug, like we just discussed, and you will go to extreme measures to obtain the drug, and that can go as far as selling your items. I've actually heard of stories of people actually killing people to obtain the drug in order for them to be able to function. We're just going to continue with opioid dependency. Here are some signs and symptoms. The person may sweat profusely to their entire body without even having to do any form of strenuous exercises or anything of that nature. Being that they are opioids, this is a very common side effect of chronic opioid use, and that's constipation. So you would have chronic constipation. Your pupils will be very dilated. They will be very small, so they'll be pinpoint. You'll have shallow breathing, nausea, and your sex drive will be reduced. So you wouldn't want to have sex, you would just want the medication. Ways we would tackle the opioid crisis. Opioids should be given on a less frequent basis, on a routine basis. So the doctors are more so trying to move from prescribing so many opioids. They'll basically refer you to over-the-counter medications such as ibuprofen, Aleve, or Tylenol. More non-medication therapeutic interventions, because most opioids, because they act on the central nervous system, the doctors normally prescribe it for pain. So when we say non-medication therapeutic interventions, they may say something like stretching or exercise in the area that may have the pain, or they may refer you to a masseuse to have massages and things of that nature. The obtainment of the opioid becoming more difficult, with the medications being locked in a safe and requiring a code from the pharmacy prior to retrieval. This example was basically used because I work in long-term care, and also being that we are in an opioid crisis, there were many instances where nurses were actually stealing the medication. So this was actually implemented at my facility. In order for you to obtain any form of opioid, whether it's prescribed or not, you actually had to call the pharmacy to get a one-time code in order to obtain the medication. And of course, the number of missing medication has lessened with implementing this intervention. The lesser number of opioids ordered from the MD. It used to be the doctor would prescribe you 30 pills for a month supply. Now they're moving so to where they may only give you 10 pills, 8 pills, or maybe even 5. And it really doesn't even matter now what procedure you've had. They're giving you a lesser number of opioids. Because I've seen it where people have even had cesareans and the doctor may only send them home with 5 to 10 pills versus 10 like they normally would. Versus 30, like they normally would. And here are just a few references that I use to kind of gather my information and put my PowerPoint together to present to you guys. Do you all have any questions?
The name of the opioid drugs again was something like, which ones?
You have your non-prescription and your prescription. Your prescription can be anything from morphine, fentanyl, hydrocodone, oxycodone. And with the hydrocodone and oxycodone, you have a combination of Tylenol incorporated into those medications as well, but also a stronger medication that's used to make that medication. And the non-prescription ones could be like your heroin and your cocaine and your methamphetamines, basically the drugs that are made on the street, but they still act on the central nervous system. Do you have any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
No.
Well, that is the end of my presentation, guys, and thank you so much.